Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakalam Shri Guru Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagadanathamritam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganam Lita Shri Vishakam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashangadeshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Ishavanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So now welcome to the Bhakti Sastri discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. We are beginning the middle six chapters. I guess you have completed the first six chapters, right? So as in the course of our discussion, we'll get to know each other. I have the list also of names and I'll try to know all of you by your names. So we'll be beginning the first three of the middle six chapters. I'll be taking 7, 8, and 9. And I'll be following a particular teaching methodology. Please try to understand this. And uh, as we have this discussion, you will get to know it. So the first thing is that basically I'll be presenting, as we are discussing the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, I'll be presenting some concepts. Okay. And as we are reading the verse, I'll be doing, the analysis of that verse itself. I'll be using a board and a pen. At that time, you can note down in your notebooks. Okay. And then, since we are studying Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, we'll be discussing the entire verse line by line, which is there in the slides itself. So you have a mic. Yeah, mic is here. So turn by turn, each of the purports, like first 7.1 will begin from here. As it is there on the slides, you'll have to read it. And if there are certain concepts or certain points, you'll have to be in tune, sync with me. You have to understand that I want to speak on that particular line. And you can note down that in your notes or in your Bhagavad Gita textbook. It is ideal to have your Bhagavad Gita hard copy with your pencil if you want to make notes. And please don't make any notes, whatever is there on the slides. The concepts which are there in the slides or any flow charts, anything, don't make any notes. Just hear them because you cannot do two things simultaneously. Because I will be sharing the slides with you. Only when I am using my whiteboard here, that time you can make your notes also. Okay, is that clear? Hmm? That's first thing. Now, secondly, what I would like to express is that with respect to the questions, the questions should be only related to the topic which is being discussed and not anything else. Don't bring your past questions or the future questions. You know, Maya Sakta Mana Partha. No, what we have discussed with respect to that. And another aspect which I want to make it very clear is that we have been studying the Bhagavad Gita from different perspectives, also from different teachers, and they have their way of presentation. And don't bring those questions here in this forum. You have to ask those teachers. If you have any questions with respect to the concepts or with the principles which we are discussing, you can ask that. Okay. No, I heard it like this and by that teacher, and what is the meaning there? That's not the right etiquette to do that. So please stick to the questions based on the context which is being discussed, and accordingly, I will try to answer. And generally, um, I will only stop in between to ask questions where there are concepts being discussed. And sometimes I might not stop. You still have a question, burning question, you know. You raise your hand, I might not take it up, because maybe while discussing in the flow, it might be answered. If it's not answered, also, just make a note, one small note in your notebook, because sometimes you forget, right? Just make a note at the end of the discussion of the verse, maybe then I will take it up. So I hope it's clear. Yes? Okay. So we are beginning with chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. How many chapters are there in the Bhagavad Gita? 18. The first six deal with? First six with Karma Yoga. The last six, Jnana Yoga. And the middle six? Bhakti. That's a good understanding. But that's not what the Acharyas say. The Acharyas say that actually how Karma Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga. How Karma Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga. How Jnana Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga. That is why Bhakti is placed in the middle. Because without Bhakti, within the Karma Yoga also, without Bhakti present, the Bhakti element present, karma cannot give its results. So Bhakti gives life to Karma Yoga, Bhakti gives life to Jnana Yoga. That's why Bhakti is placed in the middle. So it is only Bhakti which is being discussed. But that Bhakti can be secondary element. The primary might be Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga, which is discussed in the first 6 chapters. And the middle 6 chapters are very interesting. The middle 6 chapters discuss about Bhakti Yoga. But actually, in the middle 6 chapters, Krishna discusses about what is called as Shuddha Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti. And very few verses are there in the middle 6 chapters which speak about Ananya Bhakti. 7.1 is one. In the 7th chapter, there's only one verse which is speaking about Shuddha Bhakti. So in the middle six chapters, you will see most of the discussion is Mishra Bhakti. Most of the discussion is what? Mishra Bhakti. And we will be discussing Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti in the seventh, eighth chapters, which will be coming up. So, in one sense, in the entire 18 chapters, Krishna proves how Bhakti Yoga is superior to Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Are you getting this point? In the middle six chapters, Krishna is proving how Ananya Bhakti is what? Superior to? Ananya Bhakti is superior to what? Mishra Bhakti. So, in essence, Krishna is only glorifying what? The Bhagavad Gita? Bhakti Yoga. Is glorifying Bhakti Yoga. So, in the last chapter of the sixth chapter, we saw Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yoma sarve yukta tamo mata. After Krishna spoke about tapasvi adik yogi, jnani adik yogi, karma adik yogi, tasmat yogi, bhavar, become a yogi. Arjuna had a question. Krishna, is there anyone superior than this yogi? Because he has glorified the topmost yogi as the Ashtanga yogi there. Right? Is there anyone superior? Then Krishna goes into ecstasy. There is, among all the yogis, yogi namapi sarvesham. Madgaten antaratmana. Madgaten antaratmana means who is always thinking about me, whose consciousness is filled with me, Krishna Mai. So this is explaining of a perfected devotee who has attained prayojan. Madgaten antaratmana. And Shraddhavan Bhajatema. He is performing my bhajan. Samay Yukta Tamo Bhajan. He is the topmost of the Yukta Tama. He is not Yukta, Yukta Tara or Yukta. He is Yuktama. He is the best of the yogis. So that is how the sixth chapter ended. And as I was mentioning that even in the Jnana Yoga section, although Krishna speaks about Jnana, but there also he glorifies how Bhakti is superior to Jnana. And these are the verses 13.19, 14.26, 15.19, these verses. So like that, ultimately, Krishna is establishing the superiority of Bhakti Yoga over Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and even over Mishra Bhakti in the middle six chapters. So we will be seeing Mishra Bhakti in middle six chapters. It is more important for us to understand more than Shuddha Bhakti. First, what is Mishra Bhakti? Because when the Mishran is gone, then what remains is Shuddha. So understanding Mishra Bhakti is very important. So most of the verses in the middle six chapters are discussing about Mishra Bhakti. Okay. And we will see how Krishna will do that comparison. Okay. Now I'm just going through the overview of the first six chapters, a brief overview. Now I am presenting this from a different angle. You have studied the six chapters, okay, but this is from a different perspective. So you understand this perspective. And if you have questions on this, you can ask. Okay. Okay. So, Srila Vishwanath Chandra Thakur in his analysis, another point I wanted to make is that I will not be touching upon any of the Acharya's commentaries, Vishwanath Chandra Thakur or Baldev Vidyabhushan or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But certain points, just one or 2 points here and there, we will not be studying extensively what the Acharyas are presenting their perspective. We will be focusing on the Bhaktivedanta purpose. But certain points, just to get a broader insight into the Gita, we'll be only referring very, very rarely. Okay. So, this is Vishwanath Chandra Thakur's analysis of the first six chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. He mentions that there are two types of bhakti discussed. One is called as the Bhuni Bhuta Bhakti, and the other is called as the Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. The Guni Bhuta Bhakti means that the bhakti, okay, he has to come, our Akinchan. I don't know how to technically change this. Yeah, let me try here. So the Guni Bhuta Bhakti, it's done, Prabhu. It's done. So the Guni Bhuta Bhakti means that karma is pradhan, but there is a element of bhakti in it. There is an element of bhakti, and that bhakti is secondary. It is secondary. So that is why in the Bhagavad Gita, right from after Krishna discusses Ishate Abhita Sanke Buddhi Yoge Tumam Shruno Buddhya Yukto Ya Partha Karma Prandam Prahasasi 2.39. Then he speaks about Karmandeva Adhikaraste Mahaphaleshu Kadacha 2.47. So he's speaking about basically Nishkama Karma Yoga, right? Nishkama Karma Yoga. So this is also called as Karma Yoga also. Okay. So there is karma which is pradhan and bhakti is secondary. That's why it's called as gauna. The primary emphasis is what? On karma. So this is called by the terms, you can note down, bhakti. I'm not so good in using these, but I've started recently using it because it is very helpful. Mishra karma. And this is called as bhakti mishra jnana. And this is called as bhakti mishra yoga. And this is called as karma yoga. This is called as what? Jnana yoga. And this is called as what? Ashtanga yoga. This is what is dealt in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Where karma, jnana and yoga are pradhan. And bhakti is a secondary element within those practices. There is no direct practice of bhakti. Bhakti takes a secondary role there. It takes a secondary role. Because without bhakti being present, karma cannot give its fruit. Without bhakti being present in jnana practice, it cannot give the fruit of. What is the fruit of jnana? What is the fruit of jnana? Liberation. And even ashtanga. So this is discussed in the first 6 chapters. So there is sakam karma or kamya karma, what is called, which leads to swarga. And the goal of nishkam karma yoga is jnana. Within nishkama karma yoga, there is jnana. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadacha. That I should do my karma without desiring the fruits. What is the knowledge within that you have? That if I desire the fruits, what will happen? I will get entangled, right? So I have the nature according to my how to do actions, but I have to do without desiring the fruits. So there is the element of jnana with which we practice that. So this nishkama karma yoga, which has the element of jnana, the purpose of nishkama karma yoga is purification of the heart, chitta, purification of the heart or the chitta. And when nishkama karma yoga matures, then one comes to the stage of what is called as the jnana nishta. This jnana nishta is also called as what? Sthita pragya. You have come across this term, Sthita pragya? Where does this first time this term come? Sita pragyasya kama. Krishna doesn't use this word. Arjuna uses this word. Krishna uses the word samado achala buddhi in the previous verse. His buddhi is achala and he is situated in samadhi. That means he is fixed in self-realization. So Nishkama Karma Yoga ultimately leads to what? Self-realization. You come to the Sita Pragya. And once you come to this point, Sita Pragya, then you can take up the path of Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga to attain what? Liberation. Okay. And this is quite elaborately discussed in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and this is discussed in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which you all have studied. You all have studied, no? Looks like seeing your faces after writing the exam also, you feel like it's fresh in your memory, right? Huh? So now my question is, kindly hear very attentively. Actually, this is not the time to discuss Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is philosophy, and afternoon time is the time you start dozing. And I already see, because it's taxing to the mind. Philosophy discussion should happen in the early mornings. So, how is Ashtanga Yoga falling within the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, within the section of Karma Yoga? Who will answer? How is Ashtanga Yoga also part of Karma Yoga within the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita? Who will answer this? Okay, raise your hands and I will decide who will answer. How many will answer? Raise your hands. How is Ashtanga Yoga falling within the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita? How is a part of process of Karma Yoga? Did you understand my question first of all? Yes? What's your name, Prabhuji? Your name is? Pushpa. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Did you understand our question? Did you understand our question? You studied the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Which is Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, right? So how this Ashtanga Yoga is falling within the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Karma Yoga. How Ashtanga Yoga is also Karma Yoga is my question. Anyone else? Yes, Prabhuji, you had raised your hands. Mic. Take the mic. There's one mic there.
That's my opinion. Because Ashtanga Yoga includes lot of practices of karma. It includes lot of
What are the practices of karma in Ashtanga Yoga? Please tell us.
karma with normal routine activities. And here the Ashtanga Yoga also somehow to gain control of our mind, we need to go through the different types of practices.
What are the practices is my question.
Practices,
What's your good name first?
Yama, Niyama.
Yeah. What's your name? What is your name first?
Anjan Mitra.
Anjan Mitra. You're from where?
West Bengal.
West Bengal, Bengali ache.
So, Yam, Niyam, Pranayam, Asham, all these Pratyahara, these also are physical practices we call it.
Yes, your answer is correct. Aruruksho Munir Yogam Karma Karana Uchyate. 6.3 Bhagavad Gita, open up. Aruruksha Munir Yogam Karma Karana Uchyate. In the beginning stages of Ashtanga Yoga, Arur means when he's climbing up. Aruruksho Munir Yogam. That yoga is Ashtanga Yoga. Karma Karana Uchyate. You have to do actions, karma. Karma Karana Uchyate. And that refers to Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, not Pratyahara. So this first four limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, there are a lot of actions you have to do. But of course, Anashrita Karma Phala, which is 6.1. And then Yoga Rudasita Seva, Shama Karana Uchate. And when one reaches the Yoga Ruda stage, the higher stages of yoga, that is Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. There is no action. He has to just sit and meditate. He doesn't do any physical activities because he has pacified the mind. He's focused, he's concentrated. He can just sit one place and meditate on the Lord. So in that context, Ashtanga Yoga within also falls in the category of the first 6 chapters, that is Karma Yoga. Okay. So this is just a brief overview of the first 6 chapters, which is Bhakti, which is what? Secondary. Oh. Now, in the middle 6 chapters, which we are going to study, Krishna is going to glorify Ananya Bhakti versus Mishra Bhakti. And this Ananya Bhakti is the term only Krishna uses in the Bhagavad Gita. Rupa Goswami defines it as what? Uttama Bhakti. In the Kapil Shiksha, it is called as Nirguna Bhakti. Prahlad Maharaj defines it as Akinchana Bhakti or Ahetuki Bhakti or Kevala Bhakti or Shuddha Bhakti. So all these are the same terms, or Nishkama Bhakti. And this is defined by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anya Bilashita Shunim. I think you are studying Nectar of Devotion, right? You have come across this verse, right? So only by practicing Ananya Bhakti, one can, attain Raj Gokul in the 4 rasas. Whereas Bhakti, which is mixed, Mishra, and that is called as Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, in which Bhakti is the principal component, but there is mixture of karma or jnana, or karma and jnana also, mixture of both, and Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So this, we will be discussing in Bhagavad Gita 7.16. It will come up here also. It is 7.16 only Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna will discuss this Yoga Mishra Bhakti in 7.29 and 30. And in the entire 8th chapter, Yoga Mishra Bhakti will be discussed. In the 9th chapter, there are again different types of mixed devotions which Krishna will speak, and that time we will deal with that. So many types of Mishra Bhakti Krishna is going to discuss and ultimately glorify which Bhakti? Ananya Bhakti. And there are few verses in the Bhagavad Gita which only speak about Ananya Bhakti. One is, I told you, 7.1. In the entire 7th chapter, there is only one verse. In the 8th chapter, anyone knows where is Krishna speak about Ananya Bhakti? Pushpa Prabhuji. Ananya Chinta is in the 9th chapter. I am speaking about the 8th chapter. 8.14. Ananya Chaita Satata Yoma Smarati Nityasha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. So note down in your Bhagavad Gita 7.1 that all the verses of Ananya Bhakti. Note down, I'm marking here. You can also mark that in your books. Right in your Bhagavad Gita. And then the 9th chapter, Where does Krishna speak about Ananya Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti? Yes, Mataji. 9.22. That is very famous verse. Ananyas-chintayanto mam ye jana pariyupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshema vaham. But before that, and after that also it is there. Where does Krishna speak in the Bhagavad Gita? 9th chapter. I'm going to make you do a lot of homework. You have to scroll back and forth the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said that how one should study the Bhagavad Gita. He should study like a lawyer. And right from front to back, top to bottom, one should know thoroughly. Who answered? Please, no sounds from the voices from the sky. Raise your hands. Somebody spoke. You spoke, Roji? Oh, from there it came. What's your name? Akinchana? Chaitanya Prabhuji. Yes. 9.14. It is 9.13 and 14 together. Mahatmanastu ma partha daivim prakritimashita bhajante ananyamanaso gyatva bhutadim avyam. Then what is his sadhana is explained in the next. Which other verse in the 9th chapter? I presume all devotees here who are come for this course, at least from 5 years they are practicing bhakti. Somebody less than 5 years raise their hands. When did you come? Krishna consciousness. Which year? Which year? 23. Oh, very nice. What about you, Prabhuji? 2022. 2020 during COVID time. Yeah, okay. Good. Okay. So we are all practicing bhakti, and where does Krishna speak in the 9th chapter about Shuddha Bhakti? 9.26. Patram Pushpam Phalam. Whereas 9.27 is Mishra Bhakti. We'll come to that and we discuss. In the 10th chapter, where does Krishna discuss about Shuddha Bhakti? Actually, it is the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, 4 verses. All the 4 verses we have to take in series. In the 11th chapter, where does Krishna? There also he compares Mishra Bhakti with Shuddha Bhakti, but that Mishra Bhakti, what it is, we will see. Oh, I'm not going to take that 11th chapter. But I'll just give a brief hint when I discuss the 9th chapter. So where in the 11th chapter, I think it is 11.54, Bhaktya to Ananya Shakya. 11 point? 11.54? Yes. 11.54. In the 12th chapter, 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where does Krishna speak about Ananya Bhakti? 12.2, but he just gives the answer among the two which is superior. But actually he defines in 12.8. And then, 6 and 7, he speaks, Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpara ananyeva yogena mam dhyayanto pasate. Tesham aham samudarta nritya samsara sagara bhavami na chiratpata maya avishita. So Ananya, one who is practicing Ananya Bhakti, he will come to me, Krishna says very clearly. And then ultimately the qualities of such Ananya Bhakta are discussed from 13 to 20 verses. 13 to 20. Okay? These are all the qualities of a Shuddha Bhakta, Bhagavad Gita. So very few verses in the Bhagavad Gita, are speaking about What type of bhakti? Ananya bhakti. And rest all his, we can see how many verses are in the middle 6 chapters and how many verses Krishna. Only one verse in each chapter you can say. And all rest is speaking about Mishra Bhakti. So that we have Mishran. We have to understand what is a Mishran. So that we can come to his practice of Ananya Bhakti. So that's how he glorifies. So ultimately this Mishra Bhakti will lead to Prema and Shanta Dasrasya in Vaikuntha. But what Mahaprabhu has come to give us is what? Raj Bhakti or Shuddha Bhakti. So um, this is what I had to say about brief recap or overview of first 6 chapters and what is going to come in the middle 6 chapters. Okay, any questions you have about this? About only this topic, what I have discussed now? Any questions? Give the mic to Prabhuji. What is your name, Prabhuji? Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Prabhuji. Wonderful name.
We learn 1 to 6 chapters. I have doubt and so my conclusion, what is difference between Niskama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga? Is it similar or different?
Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga.
Because you are literally telling about Bhakti Mishra Karma and this. And Niskama Karma Yoga, somewhere I read that it about Niskama Karma Yoga is similar to Bhakti Yoga.
Yeah.
In chapter 1 to 6. So literally, what is the things?
Basically, I cannot go into the details now because they are part of first 6 chapters. But I basically brought out the concept. In the first 6 chapters, now Prabhupada, when he is dealing with the first 6 chapters, he is directly presenting Karma Yoga as what? Practice of Bhakti Yoga. Okay, if you read the purports. But if you minutely study verse by verse, then the flow of the Bhagavad Gita in the first 6 chapters, you will understand that actually it is speaking about Karma Yoga. Right? There is one thing why Prabhupada does that is because in Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, there is similar parallels. You know? Now, to understand what is the difference between Sakama Karma Yoga and Nishkama Karma Yoga and Mishra Bhakti and Shuddha Bhakti, which we are going to discuss now in the middle 6 chapters. First of all, you have to understand that Prabhupada is laying the foundation. By studying the Bhagavad Gita, understand that we have to perform devotional service to Krishna. Come to that. And then one has to do bhajan of Bhagavad Gita. What is bhajan of Bhagavad Gita? One has to study the Bhagavad Gita repeatedly, many years. And after 5-10 years, you'll start understanding, oh, there is difference between Sakama Bhakti and Nishkama Bhakti. And there is difference between Bhakti Mishra Karma and Karma Mishra Bhakti. No. So then you can go into the details. So basically the point what I'm trying to make is Karma Yoga means Karma is Pradhan. There is no Bhakti. Bhakti is there as a secondary element. As a secondary element to assist Karma. Because Karma cannot give the results. It's only the Bhakti which can give the results of Karma. So that's why Bhakti takes a secondary role there. And that is why it is called as Guni Bhuta Bhakti. No? So karma is pradhan. That's why the term we used is what? Bhakti Mishra Karma. Karma. That is what is pradhan then? Karma is pradhan. And that's why the term is what? Karma Yoga. Gyan Yoga. Or Ashtanga Yoga. Bhakti Mishra Gyan means what? Gyan Yoga. And Bhakti Mishra Yoga means what? Ashtanga Yoga. And for your kind information, if you have very carefully studied Prabhupada purports, especially in the last of the 6th chapter, Prabhupada does this whole analysis. Prabhupada says one should minutely study these differences in order to actually understand the glory of what? Bhakti Yoga. That purport is there. So one has to study, one has to do sadhana, one has to do bhajan or swadhyaya, or studying the Bhagavad Gita, and then one has to minutely analyze all this so that ultimately one can understand the glory of Bhakti Yoga. Okay. So over a period of time, as you study, and you study the purports of Prabhupada, it is there in 6.46 purport, it is there, as far as I remember. So read that purport. Prabhupada says he analyzes the entire first 6 chapters in that purport. Okay? Is it okay for now? Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Brind Prabhuji. Nice name. Okay. Any other questions regarding up till now what we have discussed? Yes, Sudhir Prabhuji. Sudhir Prabhu is known to us. Yes.
So, Unibhuta Bhakti, does it then all the three types of Vishwa Bhakti can be called as Unibhuta Bhakti then? Whatever it
No.
have been described.
Please understand, Mishra, you cannot use the word only Mishra. Because Mishra can be also, it can be Karma Mishra Bhakti. Then Bhakti becomes Pradhan there. In the next, this you see, it's Karma Mishra Bhakti.
Yes.
Okay, here Bhakti comes in the end. That is why what is Pradhan? Bhakti is Pradhan. But there is a mixture. I am practicing Bhakti now. I am practicing Bhakti, doing my backup service. But I have a desire. Prabhuji, after I do the backup service now, I want the Rajbhog. So there is desire. It is Mishra. It is not unalloyed devotion without any hetu. So karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti is Pradhan, but there is, the Anya Abhilashata Shunyam criteria is not fulfilled. So there were Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, these are different Pradhani Bhuta Bhaktis, but there is Mishra. But in Guni Bhuta Bhakti, it's not so. Bhakti is completely a secondary element. It's only Karma, Jnana or Yoga Pradhan.
So these three can be part of Unibhuta Bhakti. Whatever have been written.
Yes, this is Guni Bhuta Bhakti only. This is Guni Bhuta, where Bhakti takes a secondary role. Where Bhakti takes a secondary role. Is it clear? You have one more question. Yes. Oh.
What for Krishna in
Uh,
chapter 2, which says that you do not concentrate your mind and work for me. So work for me is karma, visra, bhakti, and beautiful.
Where does Krishna say that? First of all, tell me.
In 12.
Then why are you coming to 12th chapter now?
And my doubt was what for Krishna is karma, visra, or is devotion.
Oh, see, we have just introduced the topic now. To understand all that now, you want to get a PhD degree in one day. I get a point, I get a point. I'm able to understand it, but I don't want you to go ahead. 12th chapter when we deal, that time. Atachittam samadhatum na shaknosi maisaram. Abhyasena kaunteya माम इच्छाम तुम धनंजय अभ्यास asamarthos mat karma parmabhav. So there when Krishna is saying there, that's a different level altogether discussion happening. Okay, so it's a little out of context, but I have to satisfy our Prabhuji. So within Bhakti Yoga, I'm not going into the details of the subtleties. Within Bhakti Yoga, there is Karma Yoga, there is Jnana Yoga, and there is Bhakti Yoga. Okay. So when I say Karma Yoga means, Mat Karma Parma Bhava. And again there are divisions in this, which will not go into this. Somebody who will discuss the 12th chapter will take up that. then it will become very clear. You have to study the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th chapter and come there. By that time, things will become more clear. Now, if I bring that, again, you'll become more confused. That's why. But basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that in the beginning of our Krishna conscious practices, we do a lot of actions for Krishna's pleasure, right? A lot of running activities, right? Right? It's more like, karma, you know, because you have to engage the senses. If I tell you, Prabhu, let's sit from morning 6 o'clock to evening 6 o'clock and study the Bhagavatam. How many of you are ready here? Tell me, seriously. Just absorb yourself in discussion of Bhagavatam. The body has nature, and the nature will pull you to do actions. So those actions, what you are doing now, dovetailing in Krishna's service. So it's in one sense Karma Yoga within Bhakti Yoga. And sometimes you say, Prabhu, this devotee is a very intellectual devotee, you say. He's a jnani, you say. But he is not practicing jnana sadhana to attain liberation. But he's a devotee who has not knowledge about, bhakti. So bhakti within jnana yoga means, like I tell you, Krishna is saying, Acha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai stiram. Yes. Now what we perform jnana yoga is, sitting and chanting 2 hours. And we get exhausted. And I tell you, let's sit and chant for 12 hours. No. Which one you would prefer? 12 hours of service or 12 hours sitting and chanting Prabhuji? Service, right? And bhakti, within Bhakti Yoga is Shuddha Bhakti, which is defined in 12.8. Which is defined in 12.8. So there, Krishna actually he's dropping the ladder of mercy. That if you are not at this level of pure bhakti, then he drops the ladder down, drops the ladder down, drops the ladder down. So from somewhere you start so that ultimately you come to this point. Charge this. Charge the laptop adapter. Okay. Okay. So let's now begin with the seventh chapter. I hope up till now it's okay.
Getting charged.
Okay. Now let me see. No, it's not getting charged. Maybe that adapter is not working. You can remove the mobile adapter. Are you all with me, sailing with me, or is it all little going above the head? You can be very frank. Is it okay? It will take time to settle down. Okay. Yeah, now it's getting charged. Okay. So again, you need not note down any of these. So we'll share the slides. So verses 1 to 12, know Krishna in full. 1 to 3 speak the glory of knowledge about Krishna. 3 verses Krishna is going to speak the glory of his knowledge. 4 to 7, Krishna is the source of everything material and spiritual. And then 8 to 12, Krishna pervades everything. So today we'll try to finish maybe 2 sections. We'll try to finish this. And then 13 to 25, if Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is all pervading, Krishna is the source of everything, then we have to surrender to whom? Krishna. Then why surrender? There are those who surrender and those who don't surrender. So those 2 categories are there mentioned. And Krishna will speak about that. Then those who do not surrender, those who do surrender, sorry. Chaturvida bhajante mam, those who do surrender, those who don't surrender ones. Why surrender? Then those who don't surrender, then those who surrender. And Krishna speaks about those who don't surrender to Krishna but to Anya Devatas. Kamastesta Ritajnana Prapadyante Anya Devata. Prapadyante means they surrender to Anya Devatas. So he will speak about that. And then how the soul gets liberated by knowledge about Krishna is section 26 to 30. In that, Krishna will introduce the uh, uh, Yoga Mishra Bhutta there. When we come there, we will come to know. Okay, now let's recite this verse together. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Sakta Mana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashraya Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yata Kyasasi Tashruno. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Now here, Tashruno, O son of Prita, Partha, how by practicing yoga, yogam yunjan, in full consciousness of me, mad ashraya. Prabhupada translates, I am putting here the word to word translation so that you study it. Mad ashraya, in consciousness of me, Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says. With mind attached to me, maya sakta mana, you can know me in full. Asamshayam samagram mam. Samagram mam, asamshayam, free of doubt. So this is what here Krishna is speaking. Now, I'll introduce a very important concept here, which you can note down. In English, in English language, first there is a subject and then there's a predicate. I am going to the class. Right? You say, I am going to the class. You didn't say class, I am going to. Right? Doesn't make, good sense, right? But in Sanskrit, you know, any verse which is composed in poetry, from the, poetry, it is converted into prose, when you translate it. And it is done through the Anvaya. Anvaya means, arranging the words in a logical way in order to make meaning to the sentence. So this is Anvaya we call. And generally traditional acharyas all do Anvaya. But Prabhupada in his Bhagavad Gita gives the word to word meaning. He gives the word to word meaning, but he doesn't does the Anvaya. And that is the boundless compassion of Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada is speaking to the English audience who are not accustomed to the traditional, they are not studied right from childhood Sanskrit, Vyakarana and grammar, and they don't understand how it, the logical way of thinking in Sanskrit is very difficult for a common man. So Prabhupada, understanding that, he writes each word line by line. Each word, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, meaning that Maya, Asakta, Mana. But actually, if you do the Anvaya, Anvaya will begin from where? Tat Shunu. From there it begins. Okay? And hearing, what will happen? You'll know me. And then knowing me, what will happen? All the doubts will be dispelled. And then what will happen? You'll take shelter of me. So like that. So Prabhupada does that. He doesn't do the Anvaya here. But if you do the Anvaya, then what happens? Then this is the flow. This is the flow in the Bhagavad Gita. Shunu means try to hear. Now, I explained Maya Sakta Mana Partha means what? The mind is attached to Krishna. Now, this is the prayojan. This is the goal. This is the goal. if your mind is attached to Krishna, you have attained prayojan. You have conquered material existence. Right? Now you have to attain this goal. Now, why are we not having so much taste for hearing Krishna? Because we have not developed attachment for Krishna. Are you getting this point? Now, how do we develop that attachment for Krishna? By hearing from Krishna. So it begins from where? Hearing. Begins from hearing. So tat shunu. So just try to hear. So by hearing about Krishna, what will happen? You will know Krishna. Gyasasi samagram mam. You will know about Krishna. And by knowing Krishna, then all the doubts about Krishna will be dispelled. Asamshayam. And then what will happen? You will take shelter of Krishna. Mat Ashray. And then when you perform this yoga, now here yogam refers to bhakti yoga here. In 6.3, that yogam, Aruruksha Munir yogam, that yoga refers to what? Ashtanga yoga. But here in 7.1, it refers to what? Bhakti yoga. Prabhupada always saying self-realization, but yogam yunjan. Taking shelter of me, then you are in yoga with whom? Krishna. Right? Yogam yunjan. And then what will happen? Asakta mana, which is the ultimate goal. Are you getting this flow? When you do the Anvay, no? So there are these 6 stages which we go through. And Prabhupada and the purport will focus on that now. How important it is to hear. So, as I was mentioning, that if your mind is attached to Krishna, you have conquered material existence. Now, basically, the Bhagavad Gita philosophy, we hear, we hear that sense gratification is the source of misery, right? So, the preaching happens to the intelligence, buddhi, right? Intelligence. So, although you have heard that overeating is not good for the health, but when the feast comes, the mind listens to no one and you overeat. Because the mind is, actually purification first happens of the intelligence. And when the intelligence gets purified, then with that purified intelligence, you control the mind. Are you getting this point? With the purified intelligence, you control the. Although, in one sense, the senses are there, above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Which verse of the Bhagavad Gita speaks about this? Pushpa Prabhuji. You have studied the first 6 chapters. Where does Krishna speak about it?
Sitting place is first.
Indriyani paranah indriyabhya parammanam. Which verse of the Bhagavad Gita? Which verse? Look into your Bhagavad Gita and tell us. Look into your Bhagavad Gita. Which chapter it comes first? At least tell us. No, let him answer. Which chapter? Which chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Can you speak a little loudly, please? Which chapter? You don't know. Yeah. Okay. Which chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? 3.42. So, although the intelligence is superior to the mind, but purification first happens of the intelligence. And with the purified intelligence, you control the mind. And then when the mind is completely controlled and fully attached to Krishna, you attain the prayojan. You have conquered material existence. So that is the goal. So Krishna is directly in the first verse Speaking about what? Attaining the goal. But it begins from where? It begins from where? It begins from where? Raise your hands. It begins from where? It begins from hearing. It begins from hearing. It's very difficult to hear our own mantra while chanting, right? It's very difficult to hear our mantra while chanting because the mind is wandering here and there. So it begins with hearing. So now I'm just giving the connection between the sixth chapter and the seventh chapter. There is a linear connection between the sixth chapter and the seventh chapter. Krishna has spoken about the topmost yogi in 6.47. Mad gaten antara. Now Arjuna doesn't ask any question. And Krishna starts speaking on his own. Because Krishna is in ecstasy speaking about Bhakti Yoga. Now, just 2 days back, we had the which festival? Radhashi. Do you know where in the Bhagavad Gita is directly Srimati Radharani glorified? Any verse you know where directly Srimati Radharani is glorified? You can raise your hands. You'll have to raise your hands. That's it. No, that's not the verse for your current information. Where in the Bhagavad Gita is directly Srimati Radharani? Want to say something? Huh? Yes. No, that's not the verse. Where is Srimati Radharani glorified in the Bhagavad Gita directly? 2.72. एषा ब्राह्मी स्थिति पार्थ नैनम प्राप्य विमोहिति स्थित्वा स्याम अंत्यकालेपि ब्रह्म निर्वाणम गच्छति. So Krishna says Isha Brahmi. Brahmi is, you have heard the word Brahman? There's Brahma, which is, masculine gender. There's Brahman, which is neuter gender. And there's Brahmi, which is, which gender? Feminine gender. And it refers to the Antaranga Shakti. And who is the Antaranga Shakti of the Lord? Srimati Radharani. Situated in the Antaranga Shakti, then he will attain me. Krishna is saying actually in this verse. Brahmi. And there's another verse, of course, our Vidurpa was very close. It is 9.13. Mahatmanastu Pampartha Daivim Prakritim Asha. It is the internal energy of the Lord. And Prabhupada in the purport mentions, this Daivim Prakritim refers to Srimati Radharani or Lakshmi Devi, he says. But actually, in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is glorifying Radharani. Because Krishna is speaking the glories of what? Bhakti. So Krishna is in ecstasy and he doesn't need any spur or any question from Arjuna. He starts. And if you see, Krishna keeps on speaking in the middle 6 chapters. Only when Arjuna interrupts to ask a question, then only he stops. Otherwise, he's just glorifying Bhakti Yoga in the middle 6 chapters. Okay. Another important point I want to bring up, about the middle 6 chapters which we are discussing. Now, in the, sections of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, the attitude of a karmi is how he sees the world. This world is for enjoying. That is his attitude. Because he wants to go to Swarga, enjoy the fruits. The Jnani is what? What is his attitude? He demonizes the world. Oh, this world is Maya. No, any action you do, you'll have a reaction. It will be karma bandhana. But the Bhakti Yoga attitude is they see this world as what? It Lord's energy. They see it as Lord's energy. You know. So this attitude is presented in the middle six chapters from 7 to 12. So Krishna is now turning the whole perspective, the Gita, presenting from a different perspective now. Now, there are, in our study, any study can have two ways. One is the aesthetics, or another is called as the analytic. Analytic or analysis. So the Gyan Yoga and the Ashtanga Yoga are basically what? Analysis. Aesthetics means beauty. 1 second. It's beauty basically. You know? Now, I'm just giving you one example to understand this. Take the example of a flower. You know? Now, for a botanist, when he sees the flower, now he analyzes the flower and he breaks them into parts, right? This is the stem, this is the corolla, this is the petals, he does this analysis. But for a painter, he doesn't try to break, he wants to appreciate the beauty of the flower, So there is something called in aesthetics, the bhava, the emotion. Bhakti has to do with bhavana, our emotions. And there has to be a object of emotion. And Krishna is going to speak that who is the object of devotion? It is me. So repeatedly in the Bhagavad Gita middle six chapters, Krishna is going to refer to himself as Mam. Repeatedly he is going to refer to himself as Mam. Okay. So in the first six chapters, Krishna has rarely referred to himself. Yes or no? Which other verses he has referred to himself? Who will answer this? Let us see. Where he has referred directly to himself in the first six chapters. Anyone knows?
Why is the role
Huh?
what is the
You will have to begin systematically from second chapter. Krishna is first time referred to himself in 2.61. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matpara. And Prabhupada in that purport mentions this is directly referring to what? Bhakti Yoga. So how he is the object of sense control? Object of sense control. And ultimately he is the goal also of self control. Right? So here he has referred. In chapter 3, it's only 3.22 to 24 and especially 3.30. Mayi sarvani karmani. Mayi. And Prabhupada, right in the purport, first line, what he says? This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. It says 3.30. So there, Krishna is saying he is the object of offering of karma. Offering of karma. And in the fourth chapter, Krishna, when he speaks about the avatar tattva, he speaks about himself. Actually, in the first six chapters, Krishna has only spoken about himself in the fourth chapter, about his glory. Ajopi sanya avyatma bhutana ishwaropi san. Like that. Where he is the what? He is the propagator or the teacher of the transcendental knowledge or timeless knowledge. how he gives this knowledge to sun god. So he speaks about this in this. And of course, he answers Arjuna's question there. And in the fifth chapter, Krishna only speaks in about himself in 5.29. Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwar Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Mam. There also first time Mam comes. No? So here in the fifth chapter, he is the ultimate goal of all types of yagyas. All yagyas. So the karma yogis, what the karma yogis desire? Enjoyment, right? Correct? So how Krishna is the enjoyer, Bhoktaram. That is the vision. Krishna is the Bhoktaram. So I have to do offer karma yoga to Krishna so that he will give me home. Right? Yagya tapasam, that is the Gyanis. And Suridam Sarvabhutamanam is the Bhakti yogis. He is the heart-to-heart friend of the. So like that is the ultimate goal. And again in the sixth chapter, Krishna has spoken specifically, I think in the 15th verse, and then from section 30 to 32, and then 6.47, that ultimately he is the yogi's enlightened vision. Enlightened vision. What is enlightened vision? See, ultimately at the end of their sadhana, they realize Krishna. But in Bhakti Yoga, right from beginning, our means and goals is the same. So that's why right in the first verse, Krishna is saying what? Maya Sakta Mana. Asamshayam Samagram Mam. So Krishna is only going to speak about himself. And you might think, Krishna is too proud. He's only glorifying about himself. But you can see Krishna's humility that in the first 6 chapters, out of I don't know how many, 230 verses, he has just spoken only 23 verses, 10%. Because there the emphasis was different. But now the emphasis is what? Bhakti. And bhakti means what? I said emotions. And there has to be an object of emotion. The vastu has to be there. Vishaya vastu has to be there. And that is who? Krishna. So Krishna is going to speak about the glories of Bhagavan and the glories of Bhakti in the middle 6 chapters. So just like, you are supposed to undergo an heart operation and you're very fearful what will happen. It's a life and death situation. And, there's a very expert doctor who's going to operate. And just to give you confidence, he says, I have done in the last 15 years, 50,000 operations and all have been successful. I have got a degree from America. I've been honored by all these awards. So he's doing what? He's actually glorifying himself. But why is he glorifying himself? For whose benefit? For the patient's benefit. So Krishna is going to glorify himself as the object of devotion in these middle 6 chapters. That's why he begins with that. And in the 10th chapter, he says, Hitakamaya. I am speaking for your benefit, he says. Hitakamaya. So this Mam will repeatedly come in the middle 6 chapters because now the whole shift of the Bhagavad Gita focus shifts to what? Bhakti Yoga, where there is the object of devotion, where there is emotions, there is the aesthetic parts. So now, Sudeep Prabhu, you can read the purport and if you want, you can mark there is any some important point. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
In this seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described.
Prabhupada says the nature of Krishna consciousness is what? Fully described. That means, what does this mean? that the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. What does it mean for us? Think about it. What does it mean? Mataji, their last, what does it mean? The nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Maybe you can reverse the statement and think for yourself. What does it mean? The nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described.
To develop the love with Krishna, develop the relationship with Krishna.
Yes, that is true. Anyone else? Yes, Prabhuji. What's your name?
Adinath Pradesh.
Adinath Brajesh, Prabhuji. Okay. What's the meaning?
It might mean that it talk about the path and the goal of Krishna consciousness.
Path and goal of Krishna consciousness. Okay. Anyone? Yes, Sudhiru. Nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described.
Understanding is of the science of Krishna consciousness involving what it is actually, how it is to be executed, and what is the result, or what is the experience that one gets if
Yes.
one were to perform the
Yes,
task.
Mataji, you want to say something more? Yeah. Can you come and sit here, Mataji, in the front so that the mic can be shared here with them? You can come here, backside here, there's one, so that the mic is here with the Mataji side. So what it means that the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Very simple answer it is.
Fully to know ourselves and the relationship with Krishna. What is
Yes.
our relationship with Krishna?
So by that, what will happen?
Instantly go back to the Godhead.
Okay. We'll become fully Krishna conscious.
Yeah. Krishna mind.
Mm. It's fully described. When Prabhupada says that means you can know Krishna conscious, you can become fully Krishna conscious. This is what Prabhupada is saying. Okay, read. No, you have another mic there, huh? Yeah. Let the mic there. Yeah. Read.
Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein.
It is described herein how Krishna is opulences and how those opulences are described in this chapter. Now, what did Krishna use the word in the verse? Samagram is, yeah, Gyasasi. I'll give you that knowledge. That knowledge. So to know Krishna means you have to have knowledge of Krishna. So Krishna is going to give knowledge of his opulences, Aishwarya. So actually Krishna is going to give his Aishwarya Gyan, which will become more clear in the second verse. Okay. So the more you know about the Aishwarya of Krishna, the more you have knowledge about Krishna. And the more you have knowledge about Krishna, the more you become what? Attached to Krishna, which is the goal. Are you getting this point? Is it clear? Okay. Read further.
Also, four kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and four kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna described in this chapter.
Okay, so this entire paragraph 1, Prabhupada is giving a summary of what is going to come in the 7th chapter. Paragraph 2.
In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yoga.
Yogas. Okay. Now, who will explain this statement? What Prabhupada is trying to say? Who will explain this statement? Prabhupada purports, are in seed form and they're like a deep like an ocean. We'll have to extract. And yes, Prabhuji. In one line, you have to summarize or
Now stands descriptions of Sakam Karma Yoga, then Niskam Karma Yoga, then Buddhi Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, and then
Ashtanga Yoga. Actually, you can say Nishkam Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. Because self-realization doesn't begin from Sakam Karma Yoga, for your kind information. Because Sakam Karma Yoga, the goal is what? Swarga. Transcendence, when the goal becomes transcendent to realize the self, then it is Nishkam Karma Yoga. You have to understand that. So Nishkam Karma Yoga leading to Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. Right. Okay, next. At the end of the sixth chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. Which verse is Prabhupada quoting here? 6.47. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. You can take the mic. No, I'm just reading till the mic comes here. Okay, read.
Impersonal Brahma Jyoti or localized karma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial.
It is partial. It's not directly knowing me.
Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubt.
So, in complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is the ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Vidyante hridaya granthis chindante sarva samshaya. Shiyante chasya karmani drushta eva atmanishwar. So, actually, there are two obstacles in our path of bhakti. What are the two obstacles in the path of bhakti? Which are related to the mind and the intelligence. I've given you a hint now. Mind and you have to raise your hands. You have to follow the etiquette, otherwise it becomes difficult for me to. Yes, Mataji. What's your name, Mataji? Okay, yeah, you can take the mic there. Yeah.
Mind and the senses.
No, I mentioned there are two obstacles related to the mind and the intelligence. What is related to the mind and what is related to the intelligence? Yes. Yes, Sudhir Prabhuji.
Intelligence, it is Jnana.
Intelligence, it is Jnana. Okay. The answer is right there in the purport here, in front of you all. Yes, anyone else would like to try? I'm really going slow because I want you all to now settle down and peep into the Gita. Yes, anyone else? Yes, Prabhuji. Srivasadi Kaura Bhakta Vrinda Prabhuji.
Yes, wanted desire, material desire.
Yes, perfect. And intelligence?
Jnana or forgetfulness of Krishna.
Intelligence is doubts.
Doubt.
Doubts.
There's no ego.
Ego has its own aspect. That's different. But in the subtle body, there is the mind and the intelligence. And the mind has desires which are away apart from Krishna. And intelligence have doubts about Krishna. Doubts about Krishna. So all the studying the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna kills. The first demon whom Krishna killed in the dawn of the creation is Madhusudan, Madhu and Kaitava. And the last demon in Krishna is as Kesi. So that's why Arjuna addresses Krishna in the 3.1 as Madhusudana and in 18.1 as what? Keshi Sudan. So only when you understand why Arjuna is addressing here Madhusudan and why he is addressing as Keshi Sudan and what is the meaning, these doubts are like demons within ourself. And as long as these demons of doubts are not resolved, we cannot make progress in bhakti and understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Mark that point very, very seriously. Okay. Bhagavad Gita is the foundation book for us to understand, and on this you can build Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Prabhupada, for each of these demons, Madhusudan, he gives the explanation. Yes? It's a demon of what? Misunderstanding, Prabhupada says. You have read, right? And K.C. Sudhan, he'll address there in the 18th chapter. And in between, there are many. So, by each of these questions of Arjuna, all the doubts about Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, everything, all these tattvas, sadhana tattva, sadhya tattva, jiva tattva, Ishwar tattva, prakriti tattva, all these tattvas, when you have clear understanding, then you can practice bhakti with that understanding and then you can make progress. So that's why beyond doubts it's in. Okay.
Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma in full.
So because bhakti yoga is the highest yoga, direct Bhagwan realization. Within Bhagwan realization is included Brahman and Paramatma. So although we don't take the path of Gyan Yoga to realize Brahman or the path of Ashtanga Yoga to realize Paramatma, we take to the path of Bhakti Yoga, but we pass through these phases of Brahman realization, Paramatma realization until we attain the highest realization. Although we are practicing the path of Bhakti, Bhagwan realization, we pass through that. Just like in the lift, like the yoga ladder we mentioned, the 10th floor is Karma Yoga, 50th floor is, Brahman realization, Gyan Yoga, 75th floor is the Paramatma realization, the 100th floor is Bhagwan. And there is a step you have to go, and there is a lift. Bhakti Yoga process is the lift. So while you're sitting in the lift, you're going up, you pass through that, right? That floor, right? So similarly, we go through that, but ultimately, can automatically know Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma. Okay.
By practicing Krishna conscious yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, being entities, material nature, and their manifestations, paraphernalia.
So here Prabhupada mentions what is the definition of the absolute truth. Absolute truth means to know Krishna, Krishna's energies. King means to know, along with the king, the queens, the ministers, the citizens. So Krishna means to know his Shaktis. And he's got his Antaranga Shakti, he's got his Bairanga Shakti, he's got his Tatastha Shakti. So all the Shaktis together form what is called as the absolute truth. Are you understanding this definition? Prabhupada gives this in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay.
One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter.
So one should begin the yoga practice, Bhakti Yoga, Mad Gatena Antar Atman. But that is the highest stage, Prayojana it is. But where it all starts from? It all starts from where? Yes. Hearing, Tatshunu. Yes.
Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important.
So where Prabhupada is beginning now with? Hearing, Shravanam.
The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tat Shruno, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person.
So we have the greatest opportunity of hearing directly from Krishna, from Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, where we can become perfectly Krishna conscious. How many of us are taking real advantage of it? Think about it. See the statement of Prabhupada. One can become perfectly Krishna conscious person because you're directly hearing from whom? And Indians are very intelligent, When Prabhupada, in India was preaching, one person came, Swamiji, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to the Arjuna. If he comes and speaks to me, then I will hear the Bhagavad Gita. No? This is the argument they put. But they don't know that hearing the Bhagavad Gita in the Parampara is directly hearing as good as Krishna speaking to Arjuna. So that is the point. Okay.
One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, not from a non-devotee upstart puffed up with academic education.
Not a person who has got, In the outside world, Gyan, academic degrees, but from a pure devotee. And we are so fortunate to hear from Srila Prabhupada through his Bhaktivedanta books.
In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the second chapter of the fifth canto as follows.
Now we'll all recite these verses together. Shunvatam Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Bhadrani Vidanoti Suritsata Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyam Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki Tadarajastamo Bhava Kamalobhadayaschaye Chetarena Navidham Siddham Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sanghasya Jayate Vidyate Chidyante Sarva Samshaya Shriyante Shasya Karmani Drishta Evatmanishvare. Now, Prabhupada says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, to understand Krishna, you have to stand under, not stand above Krishna. You have to become humble and hear. That is why Upanishad means to hear, go near a teacher and hear, Acharya, and sit down and hear. So the process, the whole process is given here, Prabhupada is saying. So Prabhupada quotes twice, here in the Bhagavad Gita. And where does the Prabhupada quote these all series of verses? Anyone knows? Where does he again quote this series of verses? Shunvatam Sukata Krishna. Where does he quote this? Yes, Mataji. Srimad Bhagavatam, it is there. I am speaking, where does he quote? Again. Where does he quote? Srimad Bhagavatam, these verses are there. Where does he quote? Huh? Somebody raise your hand. Yeah.
During starting of Bhagavad Gita, you talk about whom to hear, the authority.
Where it is? He quotes this in the Markan Bhagavad Dharma prayer, which he composed in the Jaladuta when he first reached Boston. Bado Kripa Kolo Krishna Adha Mera Prati Kila Kila Hino Gati. In that song, Bengali poem which he composed as a prayer to Krishna, there he quotes all these verses. So important are these verses. One should repeatedly study these verses in the Bhagavatam, because these explain the stages of bhakti. How? By hearing by Krishna, what will happen? Krishna sees the sincerity that he likes to hear about me, he's hearing about me. And Krishna in the heart will purify all the badras. And all the badras will be destroyed. Nashta will be destroyed. And the bhakti will become steady. And all the rajas and tamas will be cheteter navidam. And one will be transcendently situated. And then bhava evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vigyan. One will realize Krishna. Now we are hearing about Krishna, that is Gyan. But when the realization happens, it is Vigyan. So we have Gyan to some degree, and to some degree we have Vigyan. When the Gyan completely transforms into Vigyan, then there is realization. And then the Ahankar knot is cut and all the doubts are dispelled. And then one will attain Krishna, one will realize Krishna. So Prabhupada is quoting this. So these two, themes in the Bhagavatam, that is this series Suta Goswami is speaking about the bhakti progression and how Narad Muni went through this. That is mentioned in the 5th and 6th chapter. One should repeatedly study to attain inspiration. So Prabhupada is ultimately quoting the translation, and I'll not read the translation. He says, thus Bhakti Yoga severs the heart knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamshayam samagram. All the dots will be dispelled. Understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of God. When all the doubts are dispelled, then Maya Sakta Manapartha Vilam. Okay, last statement.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna.
Prabhupada concludes in this paragraph. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or his devotee in Krishna consciousness. That devotee should be what? In Krishna consciousness. Then one can understand the science of. Okay, text 2. Jnanam deham savijnanam idam vakshyamya sheshata yagyatvaneha bhuyonyach jnatavyam avashishyate. I shall now declare unto you in full asheshata, this knowledge, jnanam, both phenomenal and numinous. Jnanam teham savijnanam, phenomenal and numinous, Prabhupada says. This being known, yat gyatva, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Neha bhuyonyach gyatavyam avashishyate. So, in the previous verse, Krishna mentioned that Gyasasi Tatshuno, I'll give you this knowledge. Now what? He's going to give that Gyan as well as Vigyan. So the terms Gyan and Vigyan have different meanings in different contexts. Where have you last come across this term Gyan and Vigyan? In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just giving a hint so that you can turn your pages and find out where you have come across. Guruji, what's your name? What's yes, Guruji? What's your name? Vaikunth Pratyush. Where in the 6th chapter you have come across the term Gyan and Vigyan? English. Prabhuji knows English or no? English आता है ना आपको? खुशी क्या है? Okay. Oh, very. Gyan and Vigyan, where you have come across this term? The 6th chapter.
Knowledge means that
No. What I'm asking question you have to understand. Where have you come across in which verse of the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, Gyan and Vigyan? Is my question. Anyone else? Yes, Mataji. 434. I mentioned in the 6th chapter. Yes. There are many places in the Bhagavad Gita. In the middle 6 chapters also it will come. It will come in the last 6 chapters also. You have just given today first 6 chapters exams, right? Jnana Vijnana Truptatva Kutosto Jitendra Yuktityachate Yogi Samaloshtrashma. Right? So the term Gyan and Vigyan have different meanings in different contexts. Now I'm not going to go into those contexts. I'm going to only refer now what Krishna is trying to mean here in this context. Gyan and Vigyan. What does Prabhupada translate Gyan and Vigyan here? What does it translate? Phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge. What does this mean, phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge? You have to raise your hands, those who want to speak. Yes, Prabhuji.
Maybe material world and spiritual world.
material world and spiritual world, not really exactly. Phenomenal and numinous. Very interesting. Prabhupada wanted to science when the BI, Bhaktivedanta Institute, Prabhupada wanted to start the scientific journal, and he termed that journal as Savigyana. He took this from here, Savigyana. And disciples asked, why not just keep it as Vijnana? Prabhupada said, no, Savigyana. Savigyana. No? Yes, Guruji, what is the meaning of Jnanam and Vijnanam?
What I understand is conceivable and conceivable.
Conceivable and inconceivable. Prabhupada would have written that, conceivable and inconceivable, but he's writing phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge. Yes, Guruji. Higher, lower. Nice speculations. Yes.
This Jnana phenomenal knowledge, my understanding is the most wonderful of the topmost knowledge. And luminous is, the meaning I'm not sure, but I understand it as almost, which is very vast.
That's also a very good speculation, I can say.
Is it a practical, which is practical and theoretical knowledge?
Practical and theoretical, that's a general understanding of Jnana and Vigyan, but none of the Bhagavad Gita definitions where Krishna uses Jnana and Vigyan in that context. In the 6th chapter, the terms have different meaning. Now this has different meaning. In the 9th chapter, it will come, it has a different meaning. But not what we use in the outside world, theory and practical, Jnana and Vigyan in that sense. So phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge. So phenomena means objects as perceived by our senses disconnected from Krishna. Because Krishna is going to give knowledge about him. So phenomena, sometimes you use this term, suppose you see a air show. You know what is an air show, right? And you see some spectacular display. What a spectacular, what do you say? Phenomena. Phenomena means what you perceive by your senses. And noumena or noumena comes from Latin word that is related to spirituality. Noumena means object as perceived in its inherent property, independent of sense perception. That is connected with Krishna. I'll come. Hold on. First, try to understand. What is phenomena and numinous? Okay. So phenomena means objects as perceived by our senses but disconnected from Krishna. And numinous means objects as per its inherent property, independent of our sense perception. But it is connected with Krishna. Okay. I think you are really in trouble now, right? I'll give you a very simple example to understand this. Try to understand this. Phenomena and noumena. Okay. Because Krishna is saying that you can know me in full in this chapter, right? One can become fully Krishna conscious. How to see Krishna within the phenomena? How to see Krishna is given. Because you have to connect to Krishna, right? Now I am giving an example, try to understand this. Now, perception can vary based on the consciousness of a person. Right? Now, if there is a beautiful girl, for a person, he looks as an object of enjoyment. For a yogi, that same object is what? An object of illusion. And for a tiger, the same object is what? Object of food. Now, all these are seeing the same object, but their perception is based on their senses. But independent to those, their senses, is that object having, an independent, perception? This is the point. And this Krishna will bring out in the Vibhuti Yoga in the 10th chapter. Is there any independent perception apart from the perception of the senses that object has some reality? Hmm? So when we have numinous knowledge, we see from that vision. And what is that vision? That she's a part and parcel of Krishna. Mamevamsho Jivalok. No? So that is numinous knowledge. The connection with Krishna we see. Are you getting this point? Now take another simple example. Take for example, I think there was halwa here, right? After your exam, there was halwa being offered to us. Now, somebody who likes halwa, he, he's excited. His senses are excited having the halwa. Somebody is very neutral, it's halwa, he just has it and doesn't make no fuss. And for somebody, oh, no sweets. So what is that object? Somebody it's a really delicious item, somebody it's okay. For him the salty item is more delicious than, the sweet halwa. For somebody, it's not at all delicious. He doesn't have any taste for it. So does that object have an inherent property which is different from the perception of these individuals? Yes. The taste what it is having, the taste is coming from where? Krishna. And where does Krishna say? Raso Mapsu Paunte. So that is numinous knowledge. Okay. So these two things, I am going to explain Gyan as well as what? Vigyan. And this, if you translate in, your language, okay, it will come up further then. So this is what Prabhupada writes. Now, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur gives a very interesting analysis. He says Gyan means Aishwarya Gyan, which is chapter 7 and 8. And Vigyan means Madhuri Gyan, chapter 9. And both together is chapter 10 and 11 and 12. A combination of Aishwarya and Madhuri. Now, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur makes this statement. Before attaining the stage of attachment to me, Maya Sakta Manapartha, a devotee understands Jnana about my powers. After that, he realizes Vijnana, my sweetness. Hear about both of these. I'll give a simple example. There are two friends from childhood. Both have been very close friends. And later, after many, many years, they're both friends. They meet again. But now, friends' childhood, one of the friends was stinkingly rich. He was a billionaire, trillionaire. Right? Now, as friends, now they are grown up and they are walking together. This friend is speaking about what all opulences he owns. He owns the entire Ford factory. He owns, the Rolls-Royce factory. He owns this factory. He owns all the car factories in the world are owned by him. That means all these opulences he's possessing. So the more this friend understands, my goodness, my friend is not an ordinary friend. He is highly opulent. But more than that, what will attract this friend's heart is that this simple friend comes to his small hut and, whatever little he offers, he accepts it. So there is a deeper sweetness in that relationship. So Krishna is going to explain his opulences, his energies, his Aishwarya Gyan he is going to give. That Aishwarya Gyan is what? Jnana. And the Madhurya Gyan is nothing to do with Madhurya Ras. Madhurya means sweetness. How Krishna is merciful to his devotees. How Krishna loves his devotees. That he protects his devotees. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam nidava. Sadhureva. Even if somebody commits the most abominable activity, but he is situated in my devotion, Krishna sees him as a sadhu. And we see him as what? Papi. And we commit aparadh. And he gets purified and he'll get connected to Krishna. And we'll go away from Krishna consciousness. This is confidential knowledge. So the Madhurya Gyan is what? The mercy of Krishna, that how Krishna protects his devotees. So this is the Aishwarya and the Madhurya Gyan, which is being discussed in this middle 6 chapters. The more one understands how these Shaktis of the Lord are working in this world, and all the Shaktis are coming from who? Krishna. And the more one understands the sweetness of Krishna, how Krishna protects his devotees, that is a Madhurya. So that is Aishwarya and Madhurya according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And ultimately, what Prabhupada is also saying is quite true, which I explained. Okay. So there is a progression in the Gita that God's identity is revealed in the Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Matta sarvam pravartate. And then the Bhagavatam, God's identity is revealed there also, but it is more activities, how Krishna performs his pastimes. But God's mentality, how God thinks, that is revealed in the mind of Krishna is revealed by, Mahaprabhu when he speaks his mind, how he sees things. So like that, there's a progression. So here, the identity of God is revealed, like that. Okay, and now Asheshata Krishna spoke. Asheshata means I am going to give this knowledge in full. So what does this Asheshata means? That, it's not that everything is going to speak. Only the principles he is going to give. Complete details can never be. And now, this is a very important concept, which we need to understand if you want to understand Bhagavad Gita. There is the Jiva, there is the Jagat, and there is the Jagadishwar. Okay. This is called as in Upanishads Tattvatraya. You have to all get an MSc degree in Bhagavad Gita. What is the MSc degree in Bhagavad Gita? Matter, spirit, and controller of all. So matter is what? Matter is Jagat. Which Shakti it is? Bhairanga Shakti. The Bhairanga Shakti. And the spirit is what? Jiva Shakti or Tatastha Shakti. And controller of both is what? The super soul, the Paramatma in this world. Super soul. Okay. So what is the relationship between the Jiva and the Jagat? What is the relationship between the Jagat and the Jagadishwar? What is the relationship between the Jagadishwar and the Jagat? What is the relationship between the Jagadishwar and the Jagat? All this what is constitutes Sambandha Gyan. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking all this Sambandha Gyan. The more you understand this Sambandha Gyan, then with that Sambandha Gyan, you can practice what? Abhidheya. And then that Abhidheya will lead you to what? Prayojan. Okay. Now, why does a mother serve her own child and not somebody else's child as much as she serves her own child? Because she has a sambandha, relationship. So that sambandha, the more stronger and deeper the sambandha gyan is, then with that, when we practice abhidheya, we'll attain the prayojan. Okay. Okay. Read the purport. What's your name, Prabhuji? What's your name? Huh? Anjan Mitra Prabhuji. Yes, read the purport. Read from the lines. Your
Complete knowledge includes knowledge of phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them.
yeah. Complete knowledge includes the knowledge of the phenomenal world, spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. Who will explain this statement? Raise your hands. Pushpa Prabhuji. Phenomenal world means what? In the three which we discussed, Jiva, Jagat, and Jagadishwar. This world you are seeing, na? What is it? Jiva or Jagat or Jagdishwar? Jagat. Jagat. The spirit behind it. It is Jiva or Jagdishwar. Huh? No, you hear me here. Okay. Answer me here. The spirit behind it is whether the Jiva or the Jagdishwar. Jiva. And the source of both of them, Jagdishwar. Did you get it? See, the Prabhupada's definition of Tattva is here. Okay? Okay.
This is transcendental knowledge.
Prabhupada is given the definition of what? Transcendental knowledge. Tattva definition. Or Sambandha Jnana definition. Okay.
The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend.
Where does Krishna say that you are my confidential devotee and friend? No, who want to answer razor? Where does he say? Yes. 4.3 Bhakto se me Saka cheti rahasyam.
In the beginning of the whole chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved by only two. By the devotee of the Lord in simple succession directly from the Lord. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and the only object for meditation in all types of yoga practice. When the cause of all causes become known, then everything knowable becomes known, and nothing remains unknown.
When you know the cause of all causes, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana, then everything else you know.
The Vedas, Mundaka Upanishad 1.1.3 say, Kasmin Yog Bhogavo Vijanate Sarvam Idam Vijanatam Ava Iti.
Okay. Prabhupada is quoting that verse that one knows Krishna, one knows everything else. Okay. So now all these three verses you see Krishna is glorifying this transcendental knowledge he is going to give. Okay, this is the last verse. I'll just take a 15 minutes more time because now I'm scheduled to speak till September 19th. There's 3 chapters to cover, but I have to travel back to on 17th. So those 2 days I'll not be able to take. 18th and 19th I'll not be able to take the class. So let's little half an hour take this extra time so that I can cover the whole syllabus. You have to tolerate me for that. Okay, so that I can complete the syllabus and do justice to the subject. Okay, let's recite 7.3. Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschid mam vetti tattvata. Out of many thousands among men, Manushyanam Sahasreshu. One may endeavor for perfection. Kaschit Yatati Siddhai. And of those who have achieved perfection, Yatatam api Siddhanam. Kaschin Mam Vetti Tattvata. Hardly one knows me in truth. So this verse explains the rarity of attaining this knowledge. Rarity of attaining this knowledge. So Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaya means there are rarely any human beings who actually by Nishkam Karma Yoga want to attain liberation. Because to attain liberation, one has to first perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yes or no? And then he can take up to the path of liberation. And the path of liberation is which path? Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga. And by practicing Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, he should attain what? Liberation. Siddha. He should become a Siddha. Even if somebody is a Siddha like this, still one cannot know what? Krishna. This is the point. How rare this knowledge is. Kaschin Mam Vyakti Tattvata. That's why Prabhupada is saying Siddhana means those who have achieved perfection. And Siddha for perfection. They are striving for perfection. That's the difference. I hope you are able to get it. Okay. So there are three glories of knowledge Krishna is giving. First is the exaltedness of the destination. What is the destination you will attain? What is the destination Krishna spoke in 7.1? Maya Sakta, you will attain the prayojan, the breadth of the knowledge. Yagyatva nahi bol asheshata, I will give all this knowledge in complete. Again in principle. Now he is speaking about rarity. No? In today's world, no, if you want to give this example, no, the best example is, going into IIT. Somebody comes and tells you should go and study in IIT. Why? You can go to America. That is the goal. Maya Sakta Manaparth. Right? And Manushanam Sahasreshu. Lakhs of people, what? Give exam. Then Kaschit Yatati Siddhe. Only few thousand pass and enter into IIT. And Yatatam Upi Siddhana means what? Among those who enter IIT, there's no guarantee, that they'll come out. Right? Ultimately, you have to come out successful and then get a job, then go, So like that, how rare this knowledge is, So in the third verse, Kaschin Mamati Tattvata. So Manushanam Sahasresh also refers to the materialist. Among many materialists, there is hardly one who will endeavor for karma yoga. And Kaschit Yateti refers to the transcendentalist. And Kaschin Mam Vyatati refers to the devotees. Okay, now who is a devotee will understand that. Okay. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Rup Shiksha, Krishna does, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does the classification of the living entities. He says there are Nitya Siddha and Nitya Baddha. And within the Nitya Baddha, there is the Stavar and the Jangam. Stavar are the non-moving, like the trees, plants, or stones. And the Jangam are three categories: Tiryak, Jalachar, and Stalachar. The Tiryak are the birds which move in air. The Jalachar are the aquatics which move in water. And the Stalchar are the ones who move on land. And human beings move on where? Land. And among all the species who move on land, the less number is how much? Only human beings. There are a lot of ants which move on land. The number of ants are more. So the human Manushya Jati is very alpa. Very few living entities are moving on land. Human beings. And among these human beings, most are what? Mlechadi, uncivilized. Hardly you'll find somebody who has Vedanishta, who follows Vedic culture. And those who follow Vedic culture, they what? Bhaya. They just follow for lip service. Vedanishta, where they are Veda Mukhamani. They are unrighteous. They only do lip service to Vedas. Those who are actually following the Vedas are Dharmacharya. And they are karmanishta. They are attached to what? Fruitive activities. And koti karmanishta made ek jnani durlabh. And koti jnani made ek jnani vimukta. You might find rarely one jnani who is liberated by the process of jnana. And koti vimukta jnani made durlabh eka Krishna bhakta. That is how rare is a Krishna Bhakta. Now, when we say Krishna Bhakta here, we are all, when Initially, those are not initiated, na? We gave Bhakta so and so, Bhakta so and so. It is not referring to that Krishna Bhakta. Krishna Bhakta means what? Pure devotee of the Lord, who is free from Bhukti Kama, Mukti Kama, and Siddhi Kama. So that Mahaprabhu says, he's free from Bhukti Kama, Mukti Kama, Siddhi Kama, and he's, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva. So this is what only he can understand. Kaschin Mam Vetti Tatvata. Okay, read the purport, Vrindavan Mahimam Raghuvi.
There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, what is the absolute group.
Manushanam Sasaj. There's hardly somebody who's endeavoring to know what is the self.
Generally, mankind is simply engaged in animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. And hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge.
Hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. You can see in the outside world, how many are interested in transcendental knowledge?
The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter.
So Sankhya, basically the foundation is Sankhya. To understand the self is Sankhya. By on that is Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga.
However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness.
How you can know Krishna? Only a person who is in Krishna consciousness. Just imagine before Prabhupada came in this world, how many knew in the Western world about Krishna? And forget the Western world, in India, those who think, Krishna means hum jante hain, they tell. How many? Only because Prabhupada is Krishna conscious. He knew about Krishna. So only a person who is in Krishna conscious, from him you can know what?
Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempt to understand Krishna.
The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. You know that famous pastime which happened in Vrindavan here, right? Some Trivedis had come to meet Prabhupada and he asked, you have all studied the Vedas. So who is God? Oh, that is a very difficult answer. We cannot easily ascertain that, they will say. Prabhupada called who? Saraswati. And asked, who is God? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of. He felt very insulted, small fire ulka. Confused in their attempts to understand Krishna.
Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Sankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman.
Prabhupada is saying, even a jnani who has realized Brahman cannot understand Krishna.
Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord who is the Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Gyan, Anadi Adi Govinda, Sarvakarana Karana. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know him.
It is very difficult for non-devotees to know him.
Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it.
There are these three paths: Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. According to you all, which is difficult among the three? Raise your hands. Let us see. One hand has been raised. Two went answer. Yes. Take the mic. Backside it is. What is your name, Mataji?
Sadhaka.
Sadhaka. Okay. Which is difficult?
I think Ashtanga yoga.
Ashtanga yoga is difficult. Why is Ashtanga yoga difficult?
You have to do like
Austerities. Tapasya. Okay. Yes, Prabhuji. Give the mic to him. What's your name you told?
Adinath Rajesh Das.
Adinath Brajesh. Adinath Brajesh or Brajesh?
Rajesh.
Brajesh. Okay.
According to me, Bhakti Yoga is more difficult.
Bhakti yoga is difficult. Why? Tell us.
Because there are many diversions and many slip-ups, and also it is not able, it's not pressing with money.
Bhakti yoga is difficult because of many diversions. There are many diversions in the path of Jnana yoga and Ashtanga yoga also. That's not the real reason. Your answer is correct. Bhakti yoga is the most difficult. What is the reason? Yes, Prabhuji. Shiva Sadi Kaura Bhakta Vrata. So why Bhakti yoga process is difficult? You know, that's
is difficult.
why. They're all practicing Jnana yoga.
Say that chant and be happy.
Hmm.
Between them, so many.
You don't see anyone while chanting their happiness, they're struggling, right? Yeah. Why? Because that chant and is there, na? That and means after anarth nivritti you'll be happy. Chant and be happy it is. So why it is difficult? Yes, Mataji. Desires, doubts, and Krishna's Maya. Okay. Let us hear. Okay. Right, read. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy, Prabhupada is saying. Now, here is the reason. The Jnana Yoga is intellectually difficult because you have to study Upanishads. You have to do a lot of immersion. Ashtanga Yoga is physically difficult because you have to do a lot of austerity. And all these other paths, especially Jnana and Ashtanga, they inflate the ego. In the process of Jnana Yoga, you want to actually extinguish your ego because you want to merge in the impersonal Brahman. But in the path of Bhakti Yoga, it is difficult for the ego because here there is spiritualization of the ego which happens. And that is difficult. Extinguishing the ego is easy, but spiritualizing the ego from that Ishwar Bhav, we all have that Ishwar Bhav, right? Controller. That's why we have come here as God, trying to control this Prakriti, right? And enjoy this Prakriti. From that Ishwar Bhav to the Bhav of what? Dasya Bhav. That is very difficult for the false. Krishna says, this process is very simple. There are no rules. Huh? Second verse of the Shishashnam says what? Niyameta na kala. Etadrashi tava kripa bhagavan mapi. But durdaiva. There is no rag from. But what is the way by which you can chant the holy names always? Ranadapi Sulichi. Very difficult. Right? In Bengal, during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, he was spreading the Krishna consciousness and he was preaching to the intellectuals there. And, there was one very famous personality who was very rich, well known also. Yeah, Vaishnavism, what is this Vaishnavism? Let me go and just see what it is. And he came to Mayapur. When he met the devotees and he heard this Trinadapi Sunichila verse, he said, this is not possible for me. I'm going back. It's difficult for the bhakti deflates the ego, spiritualizes the ego, which is a difficult process. So bhakti is difficult, like climbing the mountain. You have to climb the mountain. But it is not complex. Like in a maze, when you're underground in the maze, you cannot find the path. We know the path. But, it's Krishna, our goal is Krishna. And you have to chant what? Hare Krishna, simple. But still, in the other paths, it's very difficult. It's very complex. As Prabhuji was saying, it's very complex to realize that absolute what they have. But bhakti is very simple. Krishna is there in the form of his deity. And there's no difference between Krishna and the deity. So simple it is. So that is why it is said, it is simple to become complex. But it is complex to become simple. So bhakti is simple for the simple. Because we have the complexities of complex karmas. And that's why it is not easy to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Right? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one of his books, in Bhajan Rahasya, I think he mentions, in the path of bhakti to attain success, you need only two things, he says. Simplicity of heart and determination. And you can attain perfection. And that determination also comes because of the simplicity of the heart. Saralta hi Vaishnavata, as Bhakti Siddhanta. Okay, read further.
The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unapprenticed persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced actually, according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path.
So if you want to practice bhakti very sahajana, then it's very easy. You can stay in the Krishna conscious movement, but you might not become Krishna conscious. Remember that. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, for those who are sincere on this path is laid with thorns. What? This path is laid with what? Thorns. So when you follow all the rules and regulations and the purification starts happening, then it's not an easy path. Kadam Kanan Maharaj, when I was attending the Bhakti Sastri 2010, he was giving us nectar of devotion. So he was mentioning that one of his disciples went to Krishna Balram and prayed, Krishna Balram, please purify me quickly. I want to become pure. And after a few days, he was having a lot of health crisis, a lot of trouble. And then he came and prayed to the deity, Krishna Balram, please purify me slowly. So when the purification starts happening of all the anarthas, and then, it's not so easy. We hold on to it. Our ego holds on to that. So it's not so easy. Okay.
Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita 1.2.101.
Smriti Shruti Puranadi Ratrim Vidim Vina Aikantika Hare Bhakti Utpate Kalpate. Devotional service to the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narad Mantra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in the society. Okay.
It is not possible for the Brahman-refined impersonation or the Paramatma-realized yogis to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna.
Proper statement is not possible. Who is Krishna? He is son of Yashoda or charioteer of Arjuna. That pastime is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That Brahmana who was keeping his Bhagavad Gita upside down, he is not able to recite also, but tears of ecstasy were there. You know the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Other Brahmanas were taunting him. You can't pronounce the mantras, recitation you cannot do properly. And they were laughing. But he was following the order of his spiritual master and he was experiencing great ecstasy. He was wondering, Anant Koti Brahmanda Nayak, has become a charioteer of his devotee. Now Bill Gates, is very rich. And suppose he has a driver who drives his limousine car every day. Do you think one day Bill Gates will tell, you have to serve me nicely. Now come on, I will sit. in the front and drive the car, you sit backside. Will you ever do that? This is Krishna. It's very difficult for them to understand this.
Even the greater demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna.
Muyanti yatta suraya.
Mam tu Vidana Krishna.
No one knows me as I am in, the Lord says. Mam tu Veda Krishna will come in the 7th chapter only. Muyanti yat suraya. This is where, which verse? This is Muyanti yat suraya. Where this verse is there? Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Even the great demigods are bewildered about Krishna. You know, in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, the demigods come and offer their praise to the womb, right, of Devaki. But Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanat Goswami explain that actually Krishna was not there in the womb only, and they came and offered praise in the womb. Krishna was in the heart of Devaki. By Yoga Maya, they could not understand, and they came and offered praise to the womb. Mam tu Veda Nakashana. Muyanti and Surya. And we think, after coming in Krishna consciousness, we know about Krishna. We think like that. No? So it's not so easy to know Krishna. That's the point.
And if one does know him, then Samadhi Sudhivava. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he Tattva. Even though one is great scholar or philosopher.
Even though one is a great scholar or philosopher, one cannot know Krishna in Tattvata. Vidyante hridaya granthis china evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vigyan. So you have to have tattva vigyan, realize knowledge, then you know Krishna. Okay.
Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental quality in Krishna. His being the cause of all causes, his omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, renunciation. Because Krishna is the benevolently inclined to his devotees.
Out of his causeless mercy, he gives this knowledge to his devotees.
He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said.
अतः श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भवेत् क्रायमिन्द्रे सेवन मुखे जिह्वादौ स्वयं एव स्फुरत् अधः.
No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees being present with them for their transcendental loving service to him.
This verse Prabhupada is quoting, we have to understand. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi, Krishna's name. No bhavet krayamindriya. One cannot understand with our blunt material senses. It is not graspable by our senses, mind or intellect. Sevan mukehi jivvado. Swayam eva spurit adha. So we are chanting the holy names. But what it means to chant Krishna's name means Krishna should come on the tongue and start dancing. That means we are chanting the holy names. That is chanting. Spuratadha means Krishna cannot hold on himself in the heart. And Krishna jumps from the heart and comes on the tongue and starts dancing. And then you cannot hold your tongue. And you're continuously vibrating. And you cannot stop chanting. That is chanting. That is Spurit. Till then it is not Nam. It is at best Namabhas, or at worst it is Namaprats. So Krishna Prabhupada is saying this. No, I am not saying this. You might say that, Prabhupada in 12.8 purport, he says this. When a devotee chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna dances on the tongue, he says. When one is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service, lives in direct relationship with the Supreme Lord, so there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from very beginning. A devotee does not live on the middle lane, he lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord unknown. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. So this is, this is that devotee who knows Krishna in Tattvata. So we are now trying to acquire Gyan. This is Bhakti Sambandhit Gyan by studying Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. But when we start practicing devotional service and that Gyan transforms into what? Vigyan. Then there is realization. When the Gyan completely transforms into Vigyan, then we know Krishna in what? Tattvata. We have to understand this point. Okay, so time is up. I was supposed to finish till the seventh verse, but doesn't matter. Today we had to lay the foundation, and it took us some time to come to that point. So from tomorrow we'll continue the discussion. अनंतरा श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, पूरी वैष्णव जय. It's possible. Any questions, any clarifications anyone has? Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Prabhuji. Where are you from, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Prabhuji? Where are you from?
From Nepal.
Nepal. Oh. Okay.
I want to first look at you talk about the Srenu, hearing, how the devotional service and how the purification start from hearing.
Yes.
In the case of hearing, we hear from Guru Parampara.
Yes.
How do we hear, the culture of hearing, and whom to hear? And so many speakers and in social media also, YouTube also, all over the world, and our Guru, our Shiksha Guru, our temple president, practically, and some say, some devotee request only listen one person. You have to listen this devotee only, not other. So in this case, how to listen? Listen only one person or multiple person?
Okay. I'll give a broad picture within our ISKCON Institute, how to understand. Who evolves this question. And there are three things within this Maya Sakta Mana Partha Tatshuna. There is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. For us, Shastra means, Prabhupada books, the Bhakti Vedanta purports. As Prabhupada is the ISKCON Sampradaya Acharya, and he is representing the entire Guru Shish Parampara. So our foundation of understanding of philosophy should come from reading Srila Prabhupada books. When we are reading Prabhupada books, we are also hearing directly. It's also hearing. Reading means hearing, right? So we study solidly Prabhupada books first. This is what? Shastra. Because Shastra is central. In Guru Sadhu Shastra, Shastra is central. Secondly, there are the sadhus. Sadhu is the GBC body, which has, there is a Shastric Advisory Committee, And then there are the gurus. Now, gurus are those who are, coming in the Guru Shishya Parampara within ISKCON. There can be the initiating spiritual masters and the instructing spiritual masters. Now, I am giving you a broad principle which Jiva Goswami gives. Now, initially, if we are very fortunate and we directly come and touch with a spiritual master and you start hearing from him directly, that's the best. But generally, it doesn't happen. We begin from hearing from some devotee who is doing the Bhagavad Gita course, and we start developing our faith, which is also good enough. But over a period of time, we should try to hear from self-realized schools, especially those who are very exalted devotees coming, either the Shiksha Gurus or the Diksha Gurus. And we can hear from many gurus. And generally, how it is, Prabhupada explains in one of his lecture that there are many women out there, but you get attracted to one woman and you accept her as a wife. Similarly, you can hear from many gurus, but your heart is attracted to a particular guru, and you feel that, I can surrender to that guru. So we can hear from many gurus. At the same time, when you feel that, my attraction is for this particular sannyasi because the way he is, presenting the teachings of Prabhupada, that is inspiring me to surrender. And I see that he is also a reflection of the Sampradaya Acharya, that is Prabhupada. You can be attracted to Prabhupada more also and the spiritual master, or you can be attracted more to the spiritual master and less to the Prabhupada, but both doesn't make difference because it's all connected to the Guru Shishya Parampara. But once you start hearing from that spiritual master where your affinity, heart affinity is there, then you should continue to hear, and where your heart is attracted, you should take initiation. Yeah? And that becomes your initiating spiritual master. And then based on his advice, either you can continue to hear or you can hear from other based on the circumstances, your Shiksha Gurus. But over a period of time, you should solidly be situated in the teachings of that, Diksha Guru. And over a period of time, once you're solidly situated, then you can again hear from other gurus because now you have attained that maturity. Okay. Okay. So that is the general principle which one should follow. Is that okay? Clear? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.